welcome back to another episode of Romance Unleashed. I am your host, Tamel, and I'm trying to get this microphone right and making sure that I'm recording. So I just left therapy, and just every time I leave therapy, I leave inspired. So I was like, I think I'm gonna go to the store and record a podcast. So here we are. I hope you are all doing well and thriving and taking care of yourselves. And I hope you had a great May. This is officially June, which is a little wild. I just came back from San Francisco, Oakland area, so the Bay Area, I guess. And I was at the Bay Area Festival of Books. We were there for one day. We sold a bunch of books, a bunch of merch. And I just got back last night and I am frankly exhausted. But the podcast has really been like a great outlet for me to talk to you, to get to know you, but also to just like vent for real. Sometimes I think there's so much that I keep holding on and like I feel like I'm releasing it all with you here. So thank you for being here and thank you for listening. I want to start today with answering some questions that you've sent to me. So the first question is, what's your favorite vibe? I think that this switches a lot. It just depends on my mood, on my partner, etc. I would say right now the Unbound Babes, the Puff by Unbound Babes is my absolute favorite. It's just like palm size, it's perfect. And this is everything I'm about to say is probably not safe for work, so I hope you have some headphones in. But I think if you are a person who likes penetration, it is a really way for you to still stimulate your clit while someone is penetrating you. And it's just like pocket size, it's fun, it's great, and it has really great settings. And it also has that what's it called? That technology, that like suction technology that is absolutely life-changing. So that's my current favorite vibe. But as you may or may not know, I get a lot of samples all the time to try different things, test out different things. So if it's something that you want to continue to hear about, please let me know and I'm happy to share. I also hope that maybe I can share some of the vibrators that maybe I don't find interesting that maybe other folks do, and maybe we can talk about it because I think that's also very important. So yeah, that's a little bit on my current favorite vibrator. Let's see what else is. Oh, actually, I don't know the name of this one, but it's a Satisfier one. It could and should be used with a partner, I think, to get the ultimate experience. But it's basically this like sling that goes around your partner's penis. So the top part is kind of like a vibrating ring, but then on the other end there's also a plug, and you could also obviously plug that wherever you'd like, but that one's really, really sensational as well. So why men? That's today's episode. Oh, wait. I'm getting ahead of myself. I am not done talking about the questions that you sent me. So, what's my favorite vibe? I gave you that answer. Funnily enough, I was on Threads this weekend and I was talking about, I was really hoping that my TSA didn't stop me because I had a few vibes in my carry-on. And it has like, that thread has like 20K views right now. And usually when I have a thread that ends up with like 20K views, there's a lot of men that are involved, and like, why men, So a lot of what I received was, first, take out the batteries, which I thought was really interesting because it is 2024, my friends. And sure, there's a lot of vibes that still have batteries and are battery operated, but most of them are rechargeable now. So I feel like that says a lot about men and their use of sexual pleasure and with their partners. And I feel like there's a whole area there that we can cover in another episode. But two, I also got a lot of like, just own it, embrace your sexuality. If you can be talking about it on the internet, why are you scared of blah, 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 blah? And it's not so much being afraid, or being like embarrassed. And even if you are, I think that's totally fine, right? I think something about owning our sexuality and accepting pleasure in the society has a lot with us unlearning biases and shame that society has put on us, right? But like, to be frank, I don't really want my personal pleasure devices just like out in the air, like, what's this? You know, like, that's just not how I would prefer to have the conversation about it. Because obviously I am in an internet space where I talk about sex toys all the time, and pleasure and masturbation and orgasms. So I also think that there is another layer to it, right? Like, most of the spaces that I'm in when I talk about these things are very safe spaces for me, where I think at the airport, given the thread and the men who have commented on the thread, airport showing it, right? A TSA agent maybe picking it up, being like, what's this? Or like someone filming it perhaps, is not the safest space for me as a woman, because a lot of folks sexualize you for owning your pleasure. And so it was like, it's been a really interesting thread that I've been part of. The other portion to this has been the hilarious responses I have received. Somebody told me that their dad put this huge dildo on their mom's carry-on, and so it was flagged at TSA, and mom was not very pleased about it. I thought that was very funny. Somebody else said that like their carry-on, or no, they had their vibe in their bag. And when they got to their house, their dad was helping them carry their bag, and like it just started vibrating, and they were like, you know what, it's cheaper than men. So I think with these interactions, I think it's important to recognize why self-pleasure is such a taboo topic, and why we shy away or are not ready to have those conversations. I think a lot of it does have to do with it being a safe space in order for you to be able to do that. But a lot of it is also the response from men. And I think sometimes it could almost be in a violent way, or in a very sexualized way. Like, I remember when I launched the Steambox, the amount of men who were just like in my DMs was really wild. And at the time I was married. And so it was like, just because I am open about my pleasure and sex toys and bringing myself and my partner pleasure does not mean that you can now sexualize me. And it does not mean that I am now open to being in any kind of sexual relationship with anybody except my partner at the time, you know? So anyway, that's a little bit on that current thread. We'll see what else the men have to say, because the men are always menning, baby. What's your favorite book to recommend and why? My favorite book to recommend is probably Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. But whenever I recommend it, I always say, please check the trigger warnings. It is a very graphic book. When it comes to domestic violence, you should know that the main couple, that is not what shapes their relationship, but it's very much what shapes the female main character in the story. And it reminds me a lot of my journey. In this book, the main character, she works in athletics, which is something that I did, and she is in an abusive relationship with a partner that holds a lot of power in the athletics space. And I was in a very similar situation, and when I read that book, there was like so much about the story that really resonated with me and my journey. And I think it was so beautiful for her to be able to come out on the other side of it all, even if it took her some time, because it's so real to the experience that domestic violence survivors face, right? I also think it was beautiful to be able to see a story like yours and see that you are worthy of a love that is so pure and so magical, and with zero abuse and zero toxicity, especially after being in an abusive relationship. I think that sometimes you really struggle with trusting yourself. And I know at least I did, right? Like, how do I trust my instincts again when I dated someone who treated me like this? How I stayed for so long with someone who who did these things to me, right? And caused all of this trauma in my life. And so at some point I loved this person, and at some point I trusted this person. And so sometimes when you're in situations like this, again, at least for me, right, there was a lot of like, if that was the same Melissa that made those decisions, how can I trust myself now to find a loving and caring partner when I make that decision, right? It's a lot to work through. And with my ex-husband, I will say that, again, he was somebody who was able to see me and my trauma and say, I want to work on this with you. I want a relationship with you, but I need you to seek therapy, because a lot of what you've experienced is now bleeding into what we are and what we could be in our future, right? And I think that that's why that marriage was so special to me, and that relationship will always be so special to me, because this is somebody who, instead of saying you need to heal and then come back to me, said I will heal, or you will heal, and I will be there with you as you heal. It wasn't a come back to me when you're perfect. It was, I accept you as you are, but there need to be some changes, and therapy is, I think, the best way for you. And that's something that I will always, 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 always remember and appreciate, because especially now, I think in this dating era for me, I encounter so much of like on just like apps, right? On people's profiles, I encounter so much of, until you're not healed, don't come talk to me. Or like, if you're not healed, swipe left. And I feel like there's something so beautiful. And of course, this all depends on you and what you're going through and you can tolerate. And obviously in a space where like you can still feel safe, in a space where you're not putting yourself in a predicament that like you can't handle, right? But I think there's something so beautiful about being able to grow with somebody as they heal. And not waiting until this person is perfect, because healing is not linear, right? Like healing is a ever rotating process, and something might trigger you today that might put you back 3 steps. And tomorrow you might have moved forward 5 steps, you know? And so are you ever truly healed? I don't know. I think that's a great question. And I'm sure we'll talk more about this on another episode, but that's a little bit of Long Shot and why I love recommending Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. I think because it is Pride Month, I would love to talk about some queer books that I absolutely love. I would start with Sweet Hand by Angie Peltier. I think this book is a beautiful rendition to bisexuality, which is often erased. I also love A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. There we go. What a beautiful second chance book. Our protagonist is a trans woman and is in love with her best friend, and you will be in tears. I don't think I've read a more beautiful depiction of love ever. It was honestly a book that has stayed with me for a really, really long time. I'm probably due for a reread, except like I don't like to reread things. So anyway, those are 2 that I will recommend for right now. Today I want to talk about white men. Why not white men? Not to be confused. Why men? We will not be talking about white men in the podcast. As you all know, I'm in this dating world that is excruciatingly painful, honestly. And I think a lot of the times that I end up being in the situations that I am in because I am so eager to love. I'm so eager to love, and I want to be loved, and I want to find my happily ever after. And a lot of what I've been learning is that I need to put that energy into myself, because thus far, any energy I've tried to give to someone else has not been reciprocated in the same way. And it's kind of wild, because I feel like, you know, we meet folks on dating apps, and you ask them what their intentions are, and you ask them, what they're looking for. And I feel a little complicated about this because I feel like when you're looking for something, you don't find it. I think this goes back to why men can never find anything that they're looking for, and they always need their partner to look for it. Anyway, but you know, so I struggle with like, looking for my forever and my happily ever after, or I'm just taking it one day at a time, and whatever's for me will stay. I struggle with that because which one is it, right? I want to be dating intentionally. I don't want to waste people's time. I don't want people to waste my time. I'm also tired of learning things about people who are not gonna stay in my life. But isn't that the part of the process, right? Isn't that part of life? Isn't that part of like getting to know people and figuring out who's for you and who's not for you? I don't know, but I'm a very loving person. I am a very emotional person, and I feel like I tend to give a lot of love and energy to people who are not even ready to receive it. And expectations you put on someone are always on you, I think. Like the expectations that I have set on you are on me, because you shouldn't have to fulfill any kind of expectation I set on you, right? You set them on people sometimes unfairly. People tell you exactly what they want, and I feel like it's the lover in us sometimes that like chooses not to believe that, right? Like chooses that like maybe once you get to know me, maybe once you experience my love, maybe once you receive this love from me, you will change and you will think differently about us, and you will think differently about what your intentions are between us. But more often than not, that doesn't change ever, at all, really. And I was talking to my therapist today, and it's like almost contradictory, right? Like you say actions are louder than words, but sometimes words are just that. Words that really need to be taken for the power that they hold. And I've done this a lot. Like I've been in a few situationships with people where they tell me like, this is not something I'm ready for. I am not looking for anything serious. And I often think like, well, when they experience my love, they will feel differently. But the thing is that when someone's not ready to receive that love, no matter what you fucking do, no matter how you treat them, no matter what you do for them, they are not going to be ready for you. So stop giving people that fucking energy and put it back on yourself. Put it back on those who really value you, who are worthy of you. Put it back on your friendship, on your community, on your family. And I know it's hard, trust me. It's something that I am actively working on. It's really fucking hard, especially because I am somebody who often thinks like, but what if, right? Like, what if I take this and this is why things end up this way? But why do you always have to take the lead? Why do you always have to be the one in control? Let someone else run that for a while and see where your relationship is really at. I've also recently experienced this with my friendship breakup, right? And while we've had conversations, and we've mended some of our friendship, it will never be the same. And I think a lot of it has to do with the clarity that it brought me when I saw somebody who I cared and loved for so much erase me from their lives so quickly. I think it speaks volumes, right? Onto, I thought this was our relationship, but this is really what it is. And so, but then that's one of those, like, those actions are speaking louder than words, right? So I battle with this, right? Because there is someone who I deeply, deeply care about who has told me from the beginning that he is not ready for a relationship. And this is a person that I think deserves so much love. And I almost felt like, no, I think he doesn't think he's worthy of love. And I think that he thinks he is hard to love. And to me, he is the easiest person to love. But until he's not ready to receive that, what can I do? And the lover in me says, continue to shine your light, your love, your friendship on him. And on the other side, I'm just exhausted. I'm exhausted of putting myself out there. I'm exhausted of showing how much I care and how easy they are to love, to not receive it back, you know? Anyway, I'm going to tell you about another situationship. I met somebody back in January and they checked every box. They were very intentional. They were very thoughtful. And I am a very thoughtful person, and I haven't really received that back from people in romantic relationships anyway. And so he's a very thoughtful person. And then we kind of got into this like argument because I invited him out with me and my brother, and he was like, I'm not ready to meet your brother. And it was like this whole thing. And I was like, my brother's not like, meet my dad, meet my mom. Like, meeting my brother is like, my brother gives no shits about you. My brother's just here to take shots. He's here for a good time. Like, unless I tell him like, this is someone I want to introduce you to in that way, my brother does not give a shit. But anyway, this person was like, I'm not ready for this. I thought it was just going to be our friends. This is too fast. And I was like, okay. So anyway, we had a few more conversations, and this person has been like our serial relationship kind of guy, right? It's been relationship after relationship. So this has kind of been like the longest that he has been out of a relationship. And so he was like, I don't want to fall into these same patterns of like getting back in a relationship. I feel like I really just need to be by myself for a while. And, you know, that sucks, but it is what it is. However, this was somebody that like, our first date, we talked in my car for hours, right? Like we had such a great connection there. And so, and I feel like if there's one way to get to me is like, if I can have like deep ass, real ass conversations with you where time just flies and, you know, you're getting into these hard topics, I'm a sucker. And so anyway, we've kept in touch. Like we would go on dates randomly. The other thing about this is that he's terrified of Rottweilers, and obviously I have 3 Rottweilers for you who may not know. So I have 3 Rottweilers, and so he's literally terrified of Rottweilers. So that was going to be like a whole thing, and we've been on dates even throughout this time, but nothing like consistent, right? Which like I liked, because obviously you're not ready for this, and like you're showing me that, and that's okay. We're just kind of having a good time when we get together. We go out for drinks, go out for dinner, we have a good time, we call it a day, whatever. We talk maybe like once every 2 weeks. So just, I think what I would consider like a friend, but like we kiss from time to time, right? Anyway, and he has said many times that like kind of alluding to the fact that like I'm being kept for later, right? Which I don't particularly like, especially because I don't move in that way. So recently, actually over this past weekend, he asked me, or I don't know how we got into it, but somehow we got to the question of like, when was the last time you had sexual relations with somebody? And I told them the truth. Wow. I did not expect that reaction. And it was almost really hurtful because it's like, I can't like elicit a reaction out of you unless I'm telling you I'm receiving pleasure from somebody else. Also, like, I'm not your girl. Like, this man was deeply hurt. And like I said, like, your feelings were valid. I think your feelings are what your feelings are. I never want to make you feel like your feelings are invalid. However, you have told me over and over again that you are not ready for a relationship. Like, we talk once every 2 weeks. So like, what does it matter if I am intimate with somebody else? Make it make sense. You told me you didn't want this. So I'm supposed to just be saving myself for what? For the day you realize that like you are ready for something more? I'm telling you, this was the most wild conversation I have had. Because this man was really, really fucking hurt. And he's like, I can't even see you the same. Like, how are we supposed to go grab food? Like, when I know that you, like, are getting fucking, what did he say? Basically fucked by somebody else. And I was like, my God. Wow. Men are wild. Railed. That's what he said. You're getting railed by somebody else or something like that. He hasn't talked to me since. And I told him, like, you know, this feels a little bit like you're viewing me as property. And I don't like that. Like, you only feel some type of way because it wasn't you. Like, but why would it be you if, like, you're not ready for this? And I'm not saying that the person that I was having sex with was ready for that, because he also is not. There's a theme here, dear listener. And so why men? And if you're a man and you're listening to this, like, can you tell me a little bit about the thought process behind this? Like, I'm sorry, you call me once every 2 weeks. We go out on a date maybe once a month. But I'm supposed to be waiting for you? What? I don't understand. He also wouldn't really like, I asked, okay, well, when was the last time you were sexually active with somebody? And he was like, I don't even remember, but he couldn't even answer the question. But I didn't feel some type of way about it. Like, we had talked a few months ago, and that question had come up, but he had never asked me, and he had said like a week ago or something like that. And it made me feel no type of way, because clearly that's not the relationship dynamic that we have. Anyway, so that's been frustrating. I think it's more because like you're only viewing me as a source of pleasure, like an item, not as someone you like care about, because if you did, we wouldn't even be where we're at. And to be fair, this person has some history with folks cheating on him, etc., but that wasn't me. Also, we are not in a relationship because you said you're not ready for a relationship. So, and truthfully, am I even ready for a relationship? And I think sometimes we fail to ask ourselves that question, right? Like, when you're dating and you're doing all of these things and you're meeting people, and I often wonder, like, am I ready for something serious, or am I just having a good time right now? Or do I just like the idea of it? I feel like there is somebody in my life that I would, and I don't even know if he's in my life anymore, but I would have no doubt. But aside from that person, like, am I really ready to settle down? And I don't like the term settle down, right? Like, am I settling? No. You know, sometimes when I've been with this individual, not the person who's not ready. Well, this other person's not ready for a fucking relationship either. But I'm obviously not gonna say names out loud. There's like this sense of being fulfilled in like a familiar way, not like in the sense of family and being surrounded by family, and being like really comfortable in our silence, and the way that he takes care of me in his own way, it feels so safe. But again, that person's also not ready for a relationship. Which is a theme, dear listener. Again, right? And I think that this is where I feel like a lot of us are. We are so ready to love and want to love that we don't stop to take a second to think about, does this person even deserve our love? Or are we just in love, or are we just in love with the idea of being in love? Or are we yearning to be in love for that feeling but not for that person, right? And there are hard questions that you have to ask yourself, because it makes you sit with yourself. And it makes you sit with what you want and what you're ready for. And it also makes you sit with, like, what are your flaws, and where why are the same things happening over and over again? And I think me and my therapist had a really good conversation about this today, because we I continue to do these things. I continue to give attention and love to men who have told me that they're not ready for what I have to offer. And I need to stop that. And really, I'm sharing more because someone fucking hold me accountable. But it just ends up leaving you so burned out, you know? So burned out of what to give. And I think that that's what's made me really think this through. Because when that person finds me, I don't want to be so burned out in having given love to other people that I don't even see what's in front of me. You know? This was our Why Men episode. I'm sure we'll have some more. As always, please make sure you follow Romance Unleashed Pod on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and make sure you listen on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Make sure you're following. You'll be able to actually see me talk about this on YouTube, which is fun. We're securing a lot of guests for the pod, which I think is really exciting. Anyway, again, follow us, subscribe. See you next time. Bye.